It's the newspaper review segment of the program. As is customary, I have a copy of the Daily Trust newspaper. So let's have a look at the front page here. Lead story says Kayemo sacks 33 aviation directors appointed by Sirika. A couple of riders there. Removal not surprising, according to Roundtable. Officials removed while overseas. Also, ministers advised to harmonize departments. And that story is on page 4. However, we see the pictorial there. The ATM machine wrote, "Sorry, ATM is closed. Please try later." And also some other pictures of an ATM gallery here in the FCT with the story underneath which reads, "Naira scarcity. POS agents hike charges by 100%. In case you don't know, well, there's been some cash scarcity in the nation. Reasons not really known. The CBN has given some, however, what Nigerians want to know is to have access to cash to be able to carry out their daily activities. So let's go to the top of the page. We see Nigeria, other developing countries spent $443 billion on debt servicing. That's according to the World Bank. That story is on page 23. FIFA approves 30 Nigerian referees for 2024 competitions. That's on page 39. Also, Fubara signs 2024 budget into law 24 hours after presentation. Well, was the budget scrutinized by the State Assembly? I don't know that, because the State Assembly members in this case were 4, with the court-backed Speaker Edison here, who accepted the budget of the governor. Well, if you want to know more on that, you would have to reach page 13, because I can't tell you. But then again, these are some of the stories spread across the front page of the Daily Trust today.
All right, let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper this morning. The major story says, as Fubara signs budget, the 5 commissioners resign. Pro-Wike lawmakers pass the bills. You find this on page 6. Restoring the dignity and function of the police. You find this story on page 2. Jumia ends food delivery in Nigeria and other African countries on December 31st. Tragedy as overhead water tank collapses, kills a 9-day-old baby and mother in Ondo. Nigerians free to video photograph officers on duty. That's according to police. We have cosmetic surgery when search for perfect silhouettes leads to undesirable outcomes. That's a big story on that. You find on page 4 and 5. Federal government faults World Bank and insists the fuel subsidy is gone. Anxiety in Southeast as the Supreme Court rules on Nnamdi Kanu today. Now, these are some of the stories on the Guardian newspaper this morning.
We now move to the Punch newspaper. The lead story there says, fuel price reject World Bank 750 naira per litre proposal. NLC warns federal government. Labour says fresh price hike will lead to anarchy. Federal government insists subsidy has been removed. Tinubu government fears unrest, subsidizing fuels secretly, marketers allege. Project 1,000 naira per litre. Also atop the page, we see 6 Rivers commissioners resign. Assembly factions hold parallel sit-ins. APC faults Rivers court verdict, vows to petition National Judicial Council. That's more on the Rivers State crisis. You can read on page 18 of the Punch newspaper. Also, aviation agencies, 50 directors sacked. EFCC grills NCAA chief. That story is on page 29. Below the pictorial of the page there, we see customs generate 70% revenue from Lagos, says Comptroller General. Also, 32 states budget 14 trillion naira for roads, health, others. Kidnappers return to Lagos, abduct 2, demand 500 million naira ransom. That story is on page 4 and page 5. Also, finally, National Assembly probes $496 million Itakpe iron ore judgment payment. That story is on page 29. These are some of the stories on the front page of the Punch newspaper.
The Nation newspaper at the top of the page carries retirees get 1.63 trillion naira under contributory pension scheme. I am for peace, Aida Tiwa declares after resumption. You find that on page 5. Aseyin gets staff of office as the Sound's coronation begins. Infrastructure tops acquirers 296.4 billion naira 2024 estimate. Below the headlines there, we have Tinubu. We are working with lawmakers to fix the economy. Slim allocations threatens Ondo governorship polls and others, says the INEC. The lead story says crisis, 6 commissioners resign from Fubara's government. The riders are saying 27 lawmakers sit at Assembly Complex and governor signs 800 billion naira budget and passed by 4 lawmakers. Directors of aviation agencies sacked. The First Lady is NCW's grand patron. And at the bottom there, we have Alake, local international investors coming to us in droves. Well, amen to that. Now, these are some of the stories on the Nation newspaper this morning.
And finally, for the newspaper review segment, we have This Day newspaper. At top of the page, we see Tinubu having Akpabio Abbas at my side as NAS leaders enough to make me succeed. Assembly not an appendage of executive, says Senate President. Below that, we see AMCON recovers over 1.8 trillion naira, says it remains profitable year on year. For the lead story there, we see federal government vows to award oil assets to only companies with proven capacity in future bid rounds. A couple of riders there says era of delay of license extensions, ministerial consent over. Assures producers of enabling policies to attract investments, ramp up production. How Tinubu lobbied heads of states over Nigeria's OPEC quota raise. Also, presidency, $13.5 billion investment expected in energy sector in 12 months. And there's also investors' uncertainty persists 2 years after PIA passage. IPPG bemoans. A couple of other stories there. We see Fubara signs 800 billion naira budget into law, and also Enugu strategic partnership with Afrexim Bank, and that's a pictorial there. Well, these are some of the stories on the This Day newspaper today. And joining us to do some analysis and share perspectives on some of these stories and headlines which we have showed and read to you this morning, we have Malam Nuruddin Abdullah. He is the editor at 21st Century Chronicle. Malam Nuruddin is adorning green, even though it doesn't look like the green, on the Nigerian flag.
It doesn't matter. Green is green.
It looks like he has chosen to be patriotic, today. So I could only say, well, maybe after this conversation, we could just go and get those palliatives you've been talking so much about.
You should know that I'm a private citizen.
You're okay. Yes. While you're a private citizen, it would mean that the scarcity, as in one way or the other, impacted you. So, what's this behavior of, do I say acting as if the problem doesn't exist on the part of the government and the central bank?
Yes, I think principally, we're heading towards a festive period, despite the challenges here and there, particularly the subsidy removal and high cost of fuel. People are still planning to travel. They are traveling mostly to remote areas of the country. People in urban centers, Lagos, Abuja, Kano, they are going to
remote
villages to celebrate the Christmas and New Year. So they need the cash. So I think that is one reason for the scarcity. And secondly, based on what the CBN has said, there is a 3.4 trillion in circulation. Naira notes in circulation. So, as usual with, with Nigerians, it's a festive period and they want to amass as much as they could,
But isn't the lack of holding people accountable the issue here? Because the CBN keep pushing that there is a lot of money out there. Meanwhile, the commercial banks are saying they don't have enough money. So somebody needs to take responsibility for that.
Indeed.
Yes, but principally, we are trying to deepen the cashless policy.
On people living in rural areas, that is too much harshness. A lot of people don't even believe in having banks.
No, but I think almost every village that has service, they are operating the retail banking, the POS, and what have you. Moving around with so much cash and what have you, I think it's not longer in vogue with the spread of insecurity, particularly in the remotest areas. As a farmer, it's better to have your money in the bank. There are a lot of microfinance banks around now, particularly the fintechs, where with your card, with just a GSM number, you can operate. But if you keep a sack of cash in your house, and you know what that means, particularly in the rural areas. So I think principally most of this rush, the scarcity, I think is artificial. I think maybe the moment people are done with the festive season, they resume to work, I think it will disappear naturally. And don't forget, the deadline for the termination of the usage of the old note was supposed to be December, but it was extended indefinitely. So people were still cashing on this. Maybe they amassed so much, and what if you are now the CBN? This is what CBN said.
If the CBN should say print more, wouldn't that, quickly cushion this problem that Nigerians are facing at this point?
I don't think that is economically wise. Print more, we are spending so much money to print and manage this currency. And look at the economy. The little we have, we should put it in the right
I know some way, somehow, it would impact our currency valuation. However, let's go to the aviation sector. We saw the major shake-up by the Minister of Aviation. Well, the Daily Trust has that story. It says, aviation experts described the development as a clean sweep and reversal of the last-minute appointments made by the immediate past administration when Senator Hadi Sirika was Minister of Aviation. Sirika, on May 23rd, a week before the expiration of the Buhari administration, appointed 33 directors and also appointed a new managing director for the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria and the Nigerian Airspace Management Agency. He also created directorates that were hitherto non-existent in the agencies. So, aside the brouhaha with the Nigerian Air, the repackaged Ethiopia Air and all of that, we still had some form of giveaway with the appointment of 33 aviation directors and the creation of directorates that were initially non-existent. How would you react to?
If I were one of the people appointed, I would reject it.
You reject the
appointment?
You reject the termination of the appointment?
No, the appointment in the first place.
But then it's been 6 months and the attitude.
What I'm saying, I think that is even the magnanimity of this government. That chap spent 8 years as aviation minister. And it was his last week in office that you are appointed 33 directors. Does that make sense? You understand?
And created directorates.
Can you imagine? He has spent 8 years as aviation minister. He didn't have inspiration to create new directorates until his last week in office. This is maybe even fair compared to the Nigerian. Yeah, he delivered to us 24 hours before he left.
Okay, so at least he gave us 6 days.
6 days, but he gave us less than
24 hours.
24 hours when he delivered a brand new Nigerian Air. So it is the irresponsibility of public officers. They were even lucky. Kayemo didn't use the state. Presently, there is a state in the Northwest. They have a very dicey political matter at the apex court. And the man is just busy every morning. He will be churning out appointments, promotion, permanent secretaries in the Northwest.
Interesting.
Why? What Sirika did, let's move to, this is just the aviation sector. Let's say move to the power sector. Similar irresponsibility were carried out. And people accepted them.
How so?
Wrong. You are creating a directorate 6 days before your exit. And you spend 8 years. Is that particular
Let's
position?
not forget
You see,
the
the more
creation.
you
In
talk-
that
the more you-
period, of the 6 months, was there any change? Would you say there was a change in the aviation
You see,
sector?
aside that, the more you talk about it, the more I begin to wonder the essence of doing that. Because, like you said, you spent 8 years in office, and it didn't occur to you to create directorates or appoint directors until 6 days to the end of your tenure. So, were they supposed to work with you, or how was that supposed to work?
Simply to create bad blood for the incoming minister or the incoming administration. I mean, this is a sort of a new norm, particularly in the ministries. This thing we know obtains in the states. If you are a governor of your state, and maybe you lost election or you are going, you will make so much appointments. You will recruit workers. There is a state whereby the day the stream. Look at Oyetola.
I knew you were going
He
to mention
appointed
also.
traditional rulers. He appointed permanent secretaries. Just 2 months after he lost election, he hired workers about 10,000. Where do you get the money to pay them? He wants to put a sort of
Burden the system.
cake a powder, a sort of a time bomb for the incoming.
But what happened to patriotism? What happened to hoping that your own state and country, develop?
Which patriotism are you talking about? If a federal minister will hire an aircraft, not even paint it, to plaster it and showcase it, is there a scam bigger than that? And nothing happens.
That is it. Nothing happens. Let's come back to one of the riders here saying that the officials were removed while overseas. I mean, one of the issues that Nigerians have been complaining, lamenting in this 6 months period is the fact that there's been a lot of delay. We saw even an overrun of a plane, even though nobody got hurt in the runway. But then things like this are happening on a daily basis. And earliest, when Kayemo took his office, the first thing he said is people will start holding these people accountable. But then still, it's like a back and forth, and we're seeing this. So do you think that this decision would actually change the aviation sector, and would we see the positive change in this?
We hope so. We can only hope. He's a politician too. You understand? The head of the aviation agencies were already replaced, I think, except the guy at the FAA, which has an acting, with the NCA, who was an acting person is acting on his behalf. It's politics. Politics play a key role in this hiring and firing. So, but we hope that the current administration will not toe the line, followed by the immediate past administration, where cronyism, nepotism, you are given an appointment, you'll just populate the place with the people from your village. I saw a case not long ago, the head of an agency, he recruited, was it about 300 people? He said about 60 of them are from his state, and about 80% of them are from his own local government.
It's huge.
You can see how ridiculous that can be. But we hope that this administration, will not toe that line. Particularly, you can play with any other thing, but at least not the aviation sector, because thousands or millions of lives are at stake. We hope that they will not politicize the whole thing. Maybe most of these directors, the problem was that they were from a particular part of the country, or they are somebody's boys. And we hope that Kayemo will not replace them from the Niger Delta.
Because that's another issue.
He's a politician too.
Well, let's revisit that conversation later, and let's go to Rivers State, where we've seen the governor present the budget of the state, 800 billion naira, to 4 assembly members and a courtback speaker, Edison Ehie. I watched the video keenly, and I saw the mace, which is supposed to be the symbol of authority in that plenary. And yesterday, interestingly, I saw another counter plenary session by the 27 APC lawmakers who are defected, PDP lawmakers who are defected to the APC and who are alleged to be pro-Wike lawmakers. But then again, I also saw a mace during the plenary, which is supposed to be a symbol of authority. I don't know. Maybe these days state assemblies have two maces, just in case one goes missing, you can use the second one. How is it that plenary session held with the first faction and they had a mace, and the second faction also had a mace, to the extent that the budget has now been passed into law 24 hours after it was presented to the four state lawmakers who are allegedly, loyal to Fubara?
To start with the mace issue, there's extras mostly. I think since the Okadibo Obasanjo era, before now, during that time, we're just starting. If you take away, you ground the place.
Yeah.
But now the presiding officers have as many as they could.
But
maybe both at home.
You see, the reason why I'm saying this is because even during the 8th Assembly, we saw a situation where certain hoodlums, let me call them that, walked into the National Assembly, picked up the mace, and left, and plenary could not continue.
It continued,
okay,
if you remember well. A high-ranking senator, who later became Deputy Senate President, Omar Agege,
yes,
led the hoodlums into the plenary in session in Cameroon.
Indeed.
I think it was a Wednesday. The session was being televised live.
Yes.
The hoodlums, well-suited hoodlums, took away the mace. They ran out. There were waiting vehicles, and they drove on. It was not Sirika at that time. Siraki's deputy, the guy in prison now.
Ekweremadu.
They just asked the sergeant at arms to bring another one. So they have learned their... since that occurred. So they have extras now, both at home and in the office, in case. The situation in Rivers, let me just give you one small explanation that somebody made. As far as the governor of Rivers State, Fubara, is concerned, the State Assembly has a quorum. 27 members' seats were declared vacant. So statutorily, the Rivers State Assembly has 5 members.
That's according to
at this moment.
Exactly. So they can pass the budget.
So what happened to the other 27 who also...
Their seat has been declared vacant. So they are no longer members of the Rivers State Assembly.
But then again, this is still subject to judicial interpretation and adjudication.
Give you that. The other aspect is this. Coincidentally, these 27 lawmakers that defected from PDP to APC, and they are said to be loyal to the FCT minister, Nelson Wike, just before Wike left office, he was one of the proponents against, or rather, he was one of the visible activists against defection.
Yes. I wish we had.
And I think maybe that is what we should do. I remember not long ago the likes of Professor Jega, the former INEC chairman, and some other election activists and observers said that this issue of defection should be dealt with.
It's an insult.
It's an insult.
Well,
indeed. Well,
it's a problem we need to deal with, honestly.
You understand?
No, I mean, because of time constraint, of course, we cannot continue this conversation. But thank you so much for gracing our presence, of course. Gracing, how should I say it? Just thank you for coming and talking about reviewing these front pages of the National Daily this morning. We appreciate your time. Malam Nuruddin Abdullah, editor, 21st Century Chronicles. We appreciate you.